The Powers Project.
How you doing today, sir?
I am doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on, Kurt. How's your day going?
It's going great, and it's my pleasure, Vernon. I love your story, and I thought, this is an appropriate time of the year for people to hear your story. So, you were overweight, and you lost the weight, and so we're going to talk about this. You have an up and coming book that will be out in the first quarter of next year, and with the title and the release date to be given after Christmas. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm sure a lot of people will be looking forward to that. Um, so let's just. Why don't you tell your story from the beginning, from when you were first diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, when it happened, what happened, and let's go from there. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Kurt. Prior to even starting at the date of the diagnosis, I have to give that background information that led to it,
Yeah.
man. You know, it's a little scary, but it's I don't know. It can be it can be motivating in a sense. So I was addicted to food. I really enjoyed a lot of fast food, fried foods. Um, stuff with a lot of extra carbs, a lot of pastas, a lot of breads. And it was really a learned behavior to use food as to cope with stress and the unpleasantries of life from an early age. And I really spiraled out of control when I got to college, where I had just more access to food. Got a part-time job, so I had a little money coming in, so I can go get 6-piece bucket of chicken, at 8, 9 o'clock at night, knowing good and well my parents wouldn't have went for that while I was still in high school and middle school, living under their roof. But in college, I really had no one telling me what to do per se, at least in that regard. And so, just spiraled out of control, man. I ate multiple times a day. You know, finals week, I probably consumed the most calories per semester during finals week, just being stressed out. There were beverages that I went to help calm my nerves, peach sodas, fruit punch, what have you. And you know, over the years, I just packed on extra pounds. Leading up to July 2020, when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And it was a scary day for me. And leading up to that diagnosis, probably months prior, I figured there was something wrong with me. And I just ignored it. My wife, has been my rock through the entirety of this journey. And without her, I wouldn't be here today. Being alive to tell the story, or in decent health, to be able to share what I did and how I overcame that chronic illness. Prior to being diagnosed, probably the most eye-opening situation for me was being on a road trip, going to one of my best friend's wedding. It was about an 11-hour drive from where me and my wife reside, and pulling over to use the restroom on the highway was it was uncommon for me. I'm sure it was uncommon for many people to do that, especially with exit half a mile up the road, quarter mile up the road, um, restaurants, gas stations, hotels. Go relieve yourself. I couldn't make it to the next stop. I felt like I was gonna wet my pants, man. And, it was very scary because I had no understanding as to what was going on with me. I attributed it to, oh man, I just had a 32-ounce drink, 32-ounce soft drink, or a 32-ounce fruit punch. My mouth was dry, so I was thirsty. After I relieved myself, I would go get another. And that continued on every hour on the hour at some point. And, even while, with the wedding party, I felt the urge to have to urinate, and was scared that I was gonna embarrass myself or with my pants and my outfit. And it was just a scary time, man. And my wife, she was very much on me about going to the doctor. And so long story short, went to a clinic a few days after returning from the wedding. And yeah, man, the doctor's very casual in expressing that I was type 2 diabetic. Given the blurred vision, that I had no understanding why my vision was blurry in my left eye, to where I couldn't make out simple shapes. I had to really get close up onto some things to make out what it was with prescription glasses. And in some moments, even being up on it, like this close, it wasn't enough. And, but I never said anything. My wife didn't know I had blurred vision until the day of my diagnosis when the doctor asked me about it. My hearing was, a little off, which I never understood why until that point. I was urinating excessively through the day, feeling like I couldn't hold it, afraid that I was going to wet my pants. Mouth was always dry, so I was always thirsty, but I could never quench my thirst. Having trouble sleeping at night, tingling all through my toes, through my fingers, and my left leg was tingling, on and off for months. And my wife, man, she was, like I said, she was my rock. And so once I found out that I was a type 2 diabetic, I was in disbelief. I was, ashamed and embarrassed for myself to have put myself in that position. Once I learned what that chronic illness was all about and how the majority of people, develop type 2 diabetes, with it being self-inflicted. And man, immediately I made some phone calls after I, wiped my face of tears after I talked to my mom, talked to my wife. I called up a few good friends of mine. One's a personal trainer, Tony Lee. The other is a herbalist, Breon Reed. And, we talked, shared with them what, the news I just got. And, they were very, very confident that, their field of study and what they had dedicated their lives to at that point could be very beneficial for me. I just had to trust them. And I already had a strong level of trust in them. And we had great rapport, being good friends for, the three of us, at least 5 years. And I was in a state of desperation. And so I opted to follow exactly what they shared, Breon, as it relates to using natural herbs and sea vegetables to heal my insides. And then Tony Lee, and his expertise when it came to fitness, working out with just body weight. No need to go to a gym, and did these exercises on my patio about 30 minutes a day, 5 to 7 days a week. And I was in a bit of disbelief that would be enough for me, but again, I was desperate, and so I followed his lead. And I'm very grateful that I did. Even as it relates to using prescription medication for diabetes, I opted to not. The doctor did prescribe me a certain medication, and while I did go to the pharmacy to get it filled, once I got home and looked at the side effects, I concluded that the side effects were worse than having the chronic illness itself. And so threw those pills away, and just did a lot of research, man. Did a lot of research on different herbalists, different herbs and sea vegetables, and what they're used for, historically what they've been used for, and how they help to kind of balance the body out, and heal organs. Not quote unquote cure anything, but to help bring your body back to functionality with all organs, and that was what I needed to do it in a safe way, that I felt comfortable with, not having to worry about side effects. And it worked for me, man. I was fortunate to have lost 50 pounds in 5 months just from the comfort of my home. Working on my patio, light jogging in my neighborhood. I put myself on a very specific eating regimen where I only ate in a certain time window of the day, roughly 4 hours. I did intermittent fasting after I researched, the benefits of intermittent fasting. And I tried to keep everything as simple as I could for myself. There was a doctor that shared with me kind of in conversation, like, hey, if you can lose about 30 pounds, you really put yourself in a good position to reverse this chronic illness. And so I held to that. And so a lot of the things that I did was focused on losing weight. So I didn't test my blood glucose level every day. Matter of fact, the only time I knew what my blood glucose level was when I went to the doctor every 3 months. I didn't want to overwhelm myself with checking that daily and trying to figure out why it was this or why it wasn't that. So, I just looked to the certain foods that I ate, which are alkaline foods, fruit and vegetables. The sea moss gel, which is a sea vegetable that I use along with bladderwrack. Mixture of those two, and various herbs. One of them being elderberry. to help boost my immunity. And I only drank water from the day I was diagnosed. I only drank water. 3 months after my diagnosis, I learned a little bit more about water, pH levels, what acidic water is, and how it's not beneficial. I learned about a lot of bottled water and how the common filtration method is reverse osmosis. And I learned about why reverse osmosis isn't beneficial when it comes to drinking water and how it actually harms us in the long run. So, very, very many popular water brands I decided not to consume anymore at all. Like I don't even, even if I'm thirsty and I don't touch it because reverse osmosis is the filtration method that's used that strips, essential minerals.
Let's
And I would
let me ask
implore
you,
others to look up that. Yes, sir.
let me ask you just a couple things, because first off, I was going to ask you, how did you navigate through, because one of the challenges that people have when they're overweight is they go online. There's so much misinformation out there. You were very fortunate to have the friends that you did that could help you along, and show you the right path to go down. And yet, even with those friends, you were offered this medication or given this medication prescribed to it by your doctor, but you had to make the choice. Am I going to take the easy route, or am I going to do what's right? And what I've found over the years is that too often times people want to do it the easy way. They don't want to do what you did. And I have to applaud you for going, hey, I want to be able to do this naturally. I want to take responsibility for my own body, and I want to fix this. And especially since you're able to fix it. And so there's a lot to be said about your character, as far as who you are, that you chose that path and stuck to it. What I want to ask you is, because you called yourself a soda drunk. Now I know people like that. And so what I wanted to ask you was, how challenging was that for you to go? Like, did you go cold turkey? Did you just say, okay, I'm done with soda, and then drink water? Because I imagine that was probably a challenge.
Yeah, great question. So funny story, Kurt. The day of my doctor's appointment, I assumed that there was going to be some negative news shared because of everything I was feeling. I also assumed that I would be put on some restrictions, soda and juice being one of the things that I assumed would be mentioned. Hey, it's probably best to not consume this. And so what I did, I went to the local convenience store and purchased 5 drinks. 4 of them were fountain drinks. 2 of those were sodas, 2 of those were fruit punch, and then the fifth one was a Slurpee or slushy. And set them in the car. I had them ready for me to consume once I came out of the doctor's office, because I just assumed I was going to get bad news, and kind of emphasize on just how much of a grip food, soda, and juice had on me. I knew that would soothe me and comfort me. Coming out of it, kind of just planning ahead. But once they told me what the verdict was, I realized that, hey man, I can't have this stuff. Now the doctor that I saw on that day, they did share that I could still consume many of the things that I had been consuming. I just had to limit them as long as I took that particular medication. And in my mind, I'm like, well, consuming these things, limited or not, is what got me here in the first place. And so if I choose to consume this medication and still try to limit myself on a lot of these foods and drinks that I've been consuming, I'm not going to get the progress that I want. Now, similar to everyone else, I wanted immediate progress, but after I calmed down in my emotions, I realized immediate is just not possible. It's going to take time. It took time to get to this point in my life, in this, the status of my health. It's going to take time to undo that. And so when I left the doctor's office, I took a sip of one of those drinks and threw them all away. And I haven't had soda or juice since that day. That was the one thing that at any point could undo any of my progress, as far as mentally, physically, and even spiritually. If I go back to trying to limit the amount of juice or soda that I drink, I'll undo everything and in a pretty quick amount of time. And so I haven't had, so I would say it was considered cold turkey. Some may not. That's fine. I just know on the day I was diagnosed, that was the last day I had soda and juice.
Yeah, that's that, and again, I don't know if people understand how challenging that can be to take something that you've ingested all your life, and all of a sudden you just go, okay, never again. I had a woman. She wasn't a client of mine. She asked me for some advice. She lived out in Utah, so that's why she wasn't a client. And she told me what she ate, what she drank. And I said, I said, if you just make one change, you'll lose so much weight. And she's like, what's that? I said, knock out the sodas and don't drink them anymore. She's like, what? I drink diet. I said, just trust me on this. She knocked out the sodas and lost 40 pounds, and she's kept,
Wow.
yeah, 40 pounds. And it's because people don't realize what soda does beyond calories. They think they have to do is count calories, and that's not how food works exactly. So and so yeah, so she was amazed just by she started walking, cut out sodas, lost 40 pounds. And so, you know, there's there's simple things like that that can be done, but people mistake simple for easy. And I don't say things are easy. The three simple lifts are squat, deadlift, and bench. And two of those lifts people hate because they're not easy. They're simple, but they're not easy. So, but those are what will make you gain muscle more than any other lifts. And so, if we get it in our mind that, look, the answers are very simple. We don't have to look for these extravagant answers to find the cure for our weight, for weight loss or for obesity. We can do the simple things. Doesn't mean they'll always be easy, but we do those simple things. And it seems like that's exactly what you did. What I want to ask you though is, obviously like you said, you didn't just put 50 pounds on overnight. So
Right.
you've had this weight on you for some time, and especially for you to become pre-diabetic or diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. How many years had you had this weight on you? And I get that, maybe some years it was 20 or 30 or 40, but over the course of time, how much time do you think elapsed up until you went and saw your doctor?
Yeah, great question. So back in 2012, when I graduated from Grambling State University, I was roughly 220 pounds. After graduation, probably 2 days later, I flew to Virginia for the next chapter of my life. And so it was from that point on that I started slowly packing on this weight. And sure, there were times where I experienced some decrease in my weight, for whatever reason, but slowly packing it on. What's that? 8 7 8 years. 20, yeah,
Yeah, years.
2013 and beginning of 2013 to July 2020. Yeah, so 7 going on 8 years, just slowly packing that weight on, and
So
yeah, man, it's
what do you think contributed to your weight gain over those 7 years?
um, eating out excessively. I mean, I would have food at the house, and I might make a small dinner for myself. And then once I finish, and I experience this many times, I get a phone call. Hey, Vernon, you want to go hang out? We're going to Buffalo Wild Wings. We're going to Panera, or we're going to Chili's, or some of the popular restaurants to just sit down, dine, and have conversation. And I would go. Initially, I tell myself, well, I already ate, so no need to purchase anything. But when I get there and I'm around people that I'm cool with, and we're having a good time, and a 5-piece wing turns into 10, a small potato wedge turns into a large, and then 2 or 3 refills later on a popular soda or popular juice. I've consumed somewhere around 3,000 calories unnecessarily.
Right. All right. So when was the first time in that 7 to 8 year period? When was the first time you realized you were overweight, and did you try to lose weight at that moment? Like, did you go, "Oh, I'm overweight. I need to lose weight"?
Great question, Kurt. It was around the time I got engaged to my wife. where I realized, man, I don't really care for how I look in the mirror. I don't want to be large and in charge on my wedding day. When I got fitted for my tuxedo, the guy told me I was a 44, 46 waist, and I had never wore that size of pants in my life. And it was very scary. I was like, okay, can I get it resized? Blah blah blah. Later, answer was yes. And but I didn't put in the necessary work to get my weight down. Although I was giving it a good run and working out, my eating habits were very poor. I mean, there were times where me and my wife would go on dates, and we would share a meal, so that I didn't consume too much. But after I dropped her off at her home, and I was on the way to where I reside, I would stop at Wendy's or Cookout or something like that to get a burger and fries and nuggets and fries or something like that to make myself feel full going into my slumber. And this is 10, 11 o'clock at night on most evenings. And so, yeah, I just didn't have the discipline at that time, even when I realized that, hey, I'm definitely at a weight, I'm at a size that I don't like. I don't want to, have these pictures, 20, 30 years from now, me and my wife's wedding day, and I'm looking that big. Unfortunately, I do have those pictures. And they also serve as motivation to, never get that big again.
So until you went and saw your doctor and he said you've got type 2 diabetes, you never tried to lose weight. You never said, "Oh, I'm getting a little too heavy here. I need to lose weight." You just tried to curtail it a little bit, and then when you were on your own, you kind of went and just said, "Never mind. I'm just going to eat because you're hungry."
More or less. I do think I tried to lose weight as far as the workout piece, but as far as what I ate, the nutrition piece, I
Right.
gave it no fair shot. And so it wasn't until I received that diagnosis that I said I had to get serious about what I chose to eat. Um,
So so
to help myself.
when you thought, okay, I'm getting a little heavy, I need to lose some weight, you strictly real relied on working out, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so okay, and this is where I'd like to make a statement, is that lots of people think they can do that, and you can't outwork a bad diet. You just
Mm.
can't do it. Now, here's a caveat. There's always that one person who can. There's that one person who can work out for 6 hours straight and make up for the bad diet. But unless you plan on putting that kind of time in your workouts, I'd say you're not going to do it. So,
Right.
and
Right.
so that's a prime example. So, you're a prime example of that. Um, One of the things I think people may not realize who've never tried to lose weight is that you don't just have the physical challenges of losing the weight. The mental challenges can be even worse, or as bad or worse than. So for you, what did you find more challenging to you?
So for me, it was definitely the mental side, and the mental and the emotional side of trying to lose the weight, trying to be disciplined, and being consistent, especially during the height of the pandemic.
Right. Yeah. That's another thing to factor in, that you're stuck at home. It's like, geez. So, I mean, and again, that's kudos to you that you were able to do it during a time where you're kind of stuck at home. You don't have access to the gym, and it's great that your friend who's a personal trainer showed you how to use your body weight, that you can work out. The hardest thing I think for people mentally when they do that is they find the workouts boring. And it's like, sometimes they are, and sometimes you just have to push through it, and that's where the mental part of you has to come in and go, you know what? This may not be the most exciting thing, doing push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups and whatever else. But it's got to be done, and so again, kudos to you for being able to push through that. And what kind of advice would you give people who find themselves in that situation where they go, oh, this is boring?
Yeah, great question. So Kirk, let me tell you, man, and for the listeners as well, I was diagnosed with an A1C level greater than 15.5. Now, to put that into perspective, 15.5 is the highest that doctors can measure our A1C level. And mine was over that amount. The normal range is under 5.4, 5.5 up through 6.4 is
Okay,
considered pre-diabetes.
okay,
And
for
then
people who don't know
6.4 above is diabetes.
for people who don't know what A1C is, can you explain that? Can you describe what that is so they'll know what that means that you have A1C that's over 15?
The simplest way I was able to put it for myself is that just my blood sugar levels.
There you go.
That was the simplest way I could do it. My blood sugar levels, and in addition to that, you have another number for blood sugar levels, which is or the blood glucose level, which on the day I was diagnosed, I was at 476. Normal range is 70 through 105, and so I was way off the charts in both categories. And so knowing that, having seen that on paper, when it came to these boring workouts, and they were boring, I knew that I could not successfully complete my mission if I didn't have accountability partners. And so, in addition to my immediate family, in addition to my wife, in addition to my herbalist, my personal trainer, Tony Lee, he was one of my main accountability partners. When there were times where we're on video chat, just like you and I are now, and I'm working out, if I can't make it to push up number 19 en route to 20, I had him in my ear through wireless earbuds, encouraging me. Come on, Davis, you got this. Come on, man, just one more. You almost there. Don't quit. Don't give up. And what I would say to anyone that is challenged in that way when it comes to these boring workouts, if you don't have people in your corner as accountability partners to help push you through this very, 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 very challenging time, if you ask me, you've already failed. And I say that with as much sincerity as possible, because you can't do it alone. I'm not saying it's not possible, but the chances of doing it alone are very, very slim. Similar to working out a bad diet, the chances of doing it is very, very slim. And
Right.
so, I'm very appreciative of my accountability partners that were in my corner since the day I was diagnosed to help push me along to get up out of the bed at 5 o'clock in the morning to go work out on my patio, even when it was 35 degrees outside, because I couldn't miss that day. So.
Right. Yeah, because if you don't have someone to hold you accountable, it's very easy to stay in bed on those days.
It is.
But if you have someone, and again, I've been a personal trainer for over 30 plus years, and I have clients who've been with me for over 10 of those years, some of them even longer, like much longer than that. And they know exactly, because I teach them, this is what you need to do. This is how you do it. They could become personal trainers of their own if they wanted to. That's how knowledgeable they are. The thing is, the reason they stay with me is because they know if they don't have someone to hold them accountable, they're not getting out of bed. And so that it's extremely important. You don't necessarily need a personal trainer if you know what you're doing, but you need somebody who's not just going to give you a pass. They're not going to say, "Oh, Vernon, if you can't do 20, don't worry about it. Just do your best. Do 10." You need someone who's going to go, "No, Vernon, you ain't getting off that floor until you do 20." You've got to have someone who's going to be honest with you and push you, and and you're going to get pissed at them. You're going to get mad at them sometimes because you don't want to do it, but know that these people are doing it because they care about you and they love you and they want to see the best for you. And so with that, let me ask you this: did you find your circle of friends changing? Because I know for a lot of people, especially people who are obese, like who are 100 pounds or more, their circle of friends, it's not that they got rid of their friends. It's just that because they're doing something different than what their overweight friends are doing, they do less and less together. Because they don't have as much in common. They're not, like clients I've had who've lost over 100 pounds. They're not going and eating, all the fast foods together as a group of friends, or going to the movies and getting the huge popcorn and the soda and all that. They're not doing those things anymore. And so they don't hang out with those friends anymore. Did you find that to be the case with you?
So I want to say that due to the pandemic, I was fortunate enough not to experience that because we were all isolated in our respective homes anyway.
Did you have you found that in your friends, were any of your friends overweight, like where they looked at you and said, wow, Vernon did this, I want to do this? Like, were you an inspiration to some of your friends?
Yeah. So there are a few friends that were not happy with the weight that they were, and with the current status of their health, that they were able to pull some motivation from my story as I shared it with them, in real time, and apply some of the things that I had learned and experienced to better their situation. So yes, sir.
Excellent. And you talked about your wife earlier being a big support, which is great. And this is one of the things I relate to my clients. If you have people in your life who are, it's not like they're trying to sabotage you, but subconsciously, I think there's things where they want to test you to see if you're really like, let's see if Vernon's really, dedicated to losing weight. So let's bring donuts by, or let's, like, let's ask him to go out to Buffalo Wild Wings, or, like they're going to tempt you to see if indeed you're dedicated to this. And I tell people, like, you got to make sure you limit those kind of people in your life, because they're not going to do you any good. You need people like your wife who are there to support you and to push you into the right direction, not try to take you away from the right direction. So you talked about eating behaviors. And so this is something I want to know, because I'm sure you would agree that what you're doing is you've changed your lifestyle. This isn't just a one-time thing for you. This has become your life.
Right.
This has become the style of your life now, because you want to remain healthy. You want to, you take this weight off, keep this weight off for the rest of your life. So that means that you've got to change your way of life. So with your eating behaviors, what have you done to help, get rid of the old behaviors, like eating out at Wendy's at 11 o'clock at night, or things like that?
Yeah, just reminiscing on different things that I would have felt, and some of the experiences that I've had. So, I try not to eat late at night anymore because I'll sweat through the night and it makes it uncomfortable to sleep. And so it's very big for me. So now, if I were to get something like Wendy's, it would have to be around noon, where I had enough time to burn off whatever I ate. Now, in my eating, I try to keep things again very simple for myself, and so I did, still choose to have certain foods, but it was once a week, sometimes once every 2 weeks. I consumed a primarily alkaline diet, which I detail in my book. I didn't want to stop living life, but I also didn't want to shorten my lifespan, or the quality of my life by living to eat. And so, there were times where, if it's a Monday, make it to Friday, eating on the regimen that I had, then Saturday or Sunday, I would get the pizza that I like, get, a chicken sandwich that I liked. But that meant that I had to ensure that I was consistent through the work week, at least, with eating, how I said I was going to eat, as well as working out, having those two components, while also consuming 1 to 2 gallons of spring water a day, so that by the time the weekend came, me and my wife get something maybe from Chick-fil-A or something like that, and watch a movie. I consume it, and I don't feel guilt. I won't feel guilty about it. Now, I will say this, Kurt. There were times, and here's where the mental and the emotional part being the toughest. There were times where I had mental breakdowns. I said if it was raining outside, and my emotions tend to change when it's stormy outside. I'm at home alone, working from home. My wife is still going into her workplace during the pandemic for her job, and no one was there with me. In a split moment, I made a decision. Okay, I'm gonna get a burger and fries. Don't have it at the house. Open up the app on the phone, get it delivered. I remember purchasing 2 big burgers from Five Guys and a large fry. Knew I wasn't supposed to have it, and I just sat there and cried while I ate it. just, weak emotionally, weak mentally, in that moment. Now I remember, I didn't finish it all. Whatever I had left, I threw it away. I talked to my accountability partners, let them know what happened. And then the next morning, I made sure I pushed myself a little bit harder on those workouts, to tell myself that, food is not going to have an emotional hold and control over me. I can control it. I can control the cravings majority of the time. And I've fallen, at some point every week, Kurt, won't lie to you. I've had emotional breakdowns. There've been times where, I've wanted to drink a peach soda or some fruit punch, and I would stare at it. I'd get my water, I consume it, and go on about my day. But there were times where I've desired it, and just having to push through and fight it. Sometimes, just even praying, for the Lord to help me through, that particular moment to overcome it and not give in. And it was challenging. And to this day, it can still be challenging at times, depending on the situation. I never was striving for perfection, which I'm grateful for. That I, was kind of aware of that. That perfection just wasn't. It wasn't in the cards for me. Not saying it's not for everybody else, but it just wasn't in the cards for me. But consistency was what I wanted. Consistency is what produced long-term results.
You just made a great point, because perfection doesn't exist. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. You may think it's perfect, but it does not exist. But consistency does, and that is, you hit it right on the head. Consistency is key. Um, and I want you to know that what you went through, that's part of the evolution of what you're going through. It's a phase. I mean, I can tell you, with all the clients I've had over the years who've lost any amount of weight, they I know when it's coming. I know when they're going to break down. I know when they're going to cry, because it's almost the exact same time for every person. When they get through, like, they'll get through a breakthrough, and then they'll go. I had one client one tell me, she said, "I think this is just where my body wants to stay." I go, "This is not where your body wants to stay." But she was having an emotional moment. And so those things are going to happen. It's how we handle those emotional moments. And like you said, sometimes you're gonna give in, and that's okay, because that's part of being human. But if you're consistent, it's like the whole thing. You fall off your bike, you get back up, and you start riding again.
Yeah.
You don't go, "Oh, I fell off and I'm never going to ride again." You just don't do that. That's not the key to success, but consistency is. So I'm glad to see that. Do you have a better way that you handle emotional moments now, when, like, whenever, there's trying times or whatever, that things that you do, um, that take away from using food as that comfort?
Yeah, great question, Kurt. So while I've never been a fan of running, growing up, I would run and play soccer, but that was in hopes of either blocking a goal or getting a
Right.
goal. So no notoriety there. Playing basketball, I'm running to either stop a play from happening or to score a basket. There's some notoriety there. When it came to running on my own, I just wasn't a fan of it. It wasn't until May of this year where I realized that in emotional moments, based on what I've learned, in emotional moments, I can take, 10, 15 minutes to eat something, or I can take 10, 15 minutes to go on a jog, listening to some of my favorite music to kind of clear my mind and kind of get level headed again, while also, in a sense, doing my body a favor versus consuming, these excess calories for something that's tasty but not beneficial for me. So going out to jog has been, very key for me in combating my emotions. Moments where I feel like I'm weak, and that's whether it's raining outside or not.
That's and that's a it, I used to be like you. I was the same way. Didn't care for running, and then one day, because I'm a hypnotherapist as well, and one of the things I realized for people, how to get them to not like love running, but not mind running, is that I came up with the suggestion that I would have them sit in a seat, and then I would have them imagine not being able to feel the lower part of their body from their waist down, and not being able to move their legs, and being stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of their life, and go,
Mm.
how much would you appreciate the ability to run if you could never stand again? And, and now all of a sudden it's like, man, I am so glad I can run. And now you look at it from a different perspective. And I've found that works great for people that, who all go, I hate running. It's like, you know what? I would, as much as running can be challenging at times, you don't have to run a mile, run
Right.
what you can and then take a break and walk a little bit and run a little further, that people push themselves too much, especially if you're any sort of athlete, like in high school or college or anything, you remember what you could do back then. You go, oh, I remember when I could run a mile. Well, you're not in high school anymore, so don't try to run a mile. So, these are all important things that, in the process of losing weight and keeping the weight off. And the thing is I love your take on it, that, this isn't just for, because if you had lost weight for your wedding pictures, more than likely you would have done what everybody else does. You would have lost weight, looked good for the wedding pictures, and as soon as the wedding's over, bam, you're back up, and probably even weighing more than what you did before those
Yeah.
weight. And that's what people fall into that trap. When you look at it the way you do, which is this is a lifestyle, not just a part-time thing, then you can take the weight off and keep the weight off for the rest of your life. So, there's I think you even mentioned there's a third of this country, over 100 million people, are pre-diabetic, which means they don't know, many of them don't know that they're pre-diabetic. So when your book is released, there's going to be at least 100 million people who probably should read your book. so so if you gave them a little bit of that, you should be doing really well.
Lord willing. And yeah, man. So it's roughly 80 million are pre-diabetic, and then a little bit over 34 million are diabetic, and of that 34 million, roughly
Okay,
90% are type 2.
got you. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
now, and here's the magnificent thing. Your wife must be a great support system for you, because not only have you lost this weight and kept the weight off, and not only have you written a book that's about to be released, you guys also launched a baby brand company, which, I mean, which is amazing that, that you lose the weight, you're doing all these things simultaneously, and you're doing it successfully. So, do you want to talk about your baby brand for a moment?
Yeah. So when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes back in July, I was, very adamant about my quality of life and improving it for whenever my wife and I were to have children. Well, a month later, we found out we were expecting. We now have a son. His name's Prince, and when we found out that we were pregnant, that was that extra motivation I needed so that I could be around for my child. We didn't know we had a boy at that time, but I wanted to be around for my child. I didn't want to be in and out of hospitals or clinics. I didn't want to be bedridden. I didn't want to not be able to assist our child with riding a bike or learning how to shoot a basket or kick a soccer ball or what have you, being at the playground, what have you. And so, yeah, we found out we were pregnant. I just kind of kicked it into another gear. And while doing that, also we're thinking about, hey, we want to leave a legacy, something of inheritance for our child. And so we started brainstorming on what we could do that had little overhead initially, that we could dedicate to our child, and 20 years from now leave it for him or her and then their siblings to kind of take over. Well, once we found out that we were having a boy and we were thinking through names, there was also simultaneous with the name of whatever company we put together. So in short, Prince and Duchess collection was created in honor of our son Prince. Prince and Duchess royalty. Both of them are royalty. And it's a baby brand, man, where we promote that all children are royal heirs of their family. that they are worthy, that they are enough. They don't have to, push to try and be someone else that they see on TV or, outside of their lineage. They can just be themselves, and that they're loved, by, those that are of their support system. And, currently we have just a few designs for baby one-piece bodysuits, hats and bibs. And, we've been fortunate enough to partner with nonprofit organizations to offer our products as fundraisers, where they receive a percentage of sales. And, that's our primary way of marketing, so that we can, push that narrative, that children are enough. So, 15, 20 years from now, when these adults look back on their baby pictures that, their parents would have taken of them, they'll see, these designs, and, their relatives will be able to reminisce, about how life was during that time, just in case they're going through challenging times as an adult. They have something to, kind of reach back to and say, you know what, let's get back here, so I can put, they can put their children in that same position to, where they're doing well, they're taken care of, their needs are met, what have you. So, and that's also been an outlet for me as well. In addition to wanting to take care of myself and be present for my child, make sure that I'm putting, the amount of time necessary into building this baby brand slowly but surely, so that in 15, 20 years, it can be at a level that we all desire, so that, once our son Prince takes it over, should he choose to, he'll be able to, continue on with the relationships that we've established, the partnerships that we've created with different entities and individuals, so that he can keep the brand going on for his own children.
Well, I think that many fathers, if not most fathers, can probably relate with you, and especially when you find out that you're going to have a child, and in particular if you have a son, because you go, I want to be able to play ball with my kid. I don't want my kid go, Dad, hey, come out, and I go, I can't. I'm too tired. So so it gives you some extra incentive. Plus, you don't want your kid to beat you. It's like you got
Exactly.
Now, just out of curiosity, I have to ask. So, were you a fan of Prince? Is that part of the reason why his name is Prince, or it's because I'm going to tell you, if he ever picks up a guitar, he's going to have a lot to live up to.
Nah, no, sir. But great question. My wife and I were actually, going through, once we found out we were having a boy, we were just looking at biblical names, and a lot of them I just didn't really care for.
Right.
And so, I didn't want to put a target on my son's back by naming him Jesus. And so I was thinking, hey, Jesus being the Prince of Peace,
right.
Prince is a pretty suitable name, and it carries a lot of meaning. And, my wife was in agreement. And so we stuck with that.
Nice. Very cool. Well, so let's do this. Where can people find you? Like social media that you're on. Where can people find out about your book when you come up with when you release the title and the release date of the book after Christmas? Where can people find out this information and find you?
Yeah, great question. So I believe me and you talk. We should be airing after Christmas.
Actually,
like the 27th or something like that.
Actually, it's going to be after Christmas, and it's before because as I said, I want this to be like the very last episode of the year. So when people come into the first of the year, they're going to hear this and they can use this as motivation to get them kick-started on their weight loss journey.
Oh, perfect. So with that being said, at the time of this release, my book will be available for pre-order on Amazon. Uncomfortable Peace is the title, PACE, Uncomfortable Peace. And it'll be released, again, it'll be released in the first quarter of the year, but it'll be available for pre-order here after Christmas. Again, Uncomfortable Peace, on facebook.com/Vernon P. Davis Jr. That's where you can find me. That's the same / on Instagram as well. And then our company website, www.d as in David, F as in Foxtrot, publishing.org.
Okay. And is that where they can find your baby brand stuff as well, if they want to shop for that, or can they shop for it?
Great question. So www.pacebooks.com PAD, as in David, collection.org is where you'll be able to locate the Prince and Duchess collection and make any purchases that you desire.
Excellent. Well, Vernon, I'm going to tell you, you're an inspiration, and I'm as happy as I can be for you. Seriously, I mean, what you've done is is it's like, this is how it's supposed to be done. You're an example of how people should do things. And so I hope people will follow your lead, and I hope they'll buy your book and read your book and take it to heart. And because, the whole thing is that you should be able to love yourself no matter where you're at in your life. But if you love yourself, you always want to do better for yourself. And that means being healthy. And so, making the right choices for yourself, because if you truly love yourself, that's what you're going to do, because that's what you would do for anybody else that you loved. So, if you happen to be, 50 pounds overweight or more, or, 20 pounds overweight, and that, taking that weight off is going to make your life better, then, find somebody to help you get through this. Because as you pointed out, it's very, very hard, if not impossible, to do it by yourself. So, and this book that Vernon's written can be a motivation to help you move down the line as well into your path of becoming healthy. So, Vernon, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate having you on here and your words of wisdom. And I wish you the best. And I hope your book sells millions. So,
Kurt, thank you, man. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast. Thank you for your very probing questions, which I really enjoyed answering. Just thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. Well, folks, that's our show for today. So until next time, be safe, take care, and be kind to others, but more importantly, be kind to yourself. See you.